I have always been willing to say, if this isn't working for me, I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to go and try something different. So if it's not working, make a change. You don't know if the grass is going to be greener or you're going to be happy, but
I think the biggest mistake is that when everyone's like, let's all be family and be friends. Well,
yeah,
we're not all going to be, right? Because my viewpoint on something is going to bother somebody else, right? The fact that I wear a cross might piss somebody else off that, is an atheist. And it might piss me off that they're an atheist, So
yeah,
it's like,
right.
you know what? You're my brother. You're my sister. You're my this or that. Let's go get drinks after work. But if you create an environment to where everyone can be themselves and everyone can have that bad day, but still come to work and be a productive team member and respect and be civil with each other and have a culture to where it's not fake, right? It's not this facade of just we're family and everyone loves everyone and we're just happy 99% of the time. Because that's not real life.
Yeah. And I think what really brings a team together is getting behind a mission. And we're large enough and processing enough claims that we have a number of sub-departments within the revenue cycle. So we have the mission to get clean claims out the door with one group, and they work so hard and support each other and train each other, and they're cheering each other on, and they find humor in, absurd things like people will at work. And I love that. And then you've got the group that is posting our payments, and they're always trying to keep their lag days very low and make sure that they're staying current with payments so that the month end close is going to go well. And, each team, as it moves through the process, is after their own goal. And in particular, we have teams that are defensive and offensive. Our team that processes overpayments and manages issuing refunds, it's a hugely important team because we don't ever want to give money back that we shouldn't. And so they've got to really know their stuff and dig into each and every example. And we are just after the same thing all the time. Get every claim to a zero balance, clean up the AR, pay out the refunds, manage every aspect of it in the most ideal way possible.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the Healthy Careers podcast. In 2024, we reached over 32,000 listeners and ranked in the top 15% of all podcasts. We're proud to have SharePro Health as a sponsor and are currently looking for 2 more partners in 2025. If you're looking to connect with healthcare leaders, providers, and innovators, we'd love to spread the word about your service, product, or business. Reach out to me, Maddie, for more details. You focus on not yourself, but what the mission is and what the goal is from a business standpoint. I think you can kind of somewhat leave it at the door, as you're saying, while still being human and coming to work as your best self.
Yeah. And also using metrics to really celebrate the wins and track the patterns and all of that. And that wasn't always a part of what we do where I work, but the team has grown into that. They went through a phase where they felt that suddenly we're just all about the numbers. And that's tough too. We're not just all about the numbers. We're not just about productivity, but if you're not tracking things and watching them well, you're not going to know when certain things increase or decrease. And you've got to keep your eye on that. So that's a really important part of what we rally around now.
Yes. And I've found it's interesting because in the companies that I've worked with, and then also just obviously with what I do day to day, is I find that top producers are not the people that get bothered by having metrics. And I use the term that performance is privilege. So if you're doing your job and there's no problems or challenges, then I don't need to count your calls that you're making. I don't need to count the placements or the money that you're bringing in. But there's always going to be somebody that doesn't perform, right? And so we have to have that process and those metrics in place so that not that we can slap people on the wrist, but so that we can identify where there's a gap and then build process to better that so that we can train to it, we can fix it, and then we can be solution oriented. And I think a lot of people just shy away from metrics and they don't want to know the data and they don't want to be held accountable. And it's like, well, why not? Why wouldn't you want to know that? So that if you were doing a bad job or if there was a gap, like it's easy to pinpoint it. And it doesn't always mean you're not trying or you're not working hard enough. Sometimes it's just, it's a blind sight,
right?
A blind spot. And so I think that's something too that's important, like you're saying, is that a lot of places will say, oh, we're just about the numbers now. We've lost the focus on the patient or the focus on what we're doing in healthcare. But healthcare is also a business.
It is a business, yes.
For sure. And I guess my final question, and then I'll ask you the questions I ask everyone, but I'm very curious because in my mind, what I hear from your story and just in conversations that we've had is kind of the mentality that it's never too late. It's never too late to start a business. It's never too late to go back to school. It's never too late to switch things up and close the business or sell the business that you had for 27 years, to where most people get super comfy. They're like, no, I'm not going to change anything that would, throw things off. I don't know what's on the other side of that, right? Kind of that fear-driven mentality. You're the complete opposite. So what do you think? Have you always been that way? Is that just a part of who you are? Like, what advice would you give someone that's feeling stuck or feeling like they're not happy with what they're doing?
Yeah. So, gosh, how would I answer that? I have always wanted to find joy in my work, and I need to feel rewarded. I need to be doing something that feeds me in some way. And really, for me, a lot of that is about structure and providing structure, building something that's logical, that makes sense. And that's where this whole the claims process sounds so simple, and there's just so much to it. At a recent conference, this is at an HFMA conference, they were talking about the amount of software that is needed at this point to support your revenue cycle. And it's vast. You've got to have your patient access program, and you've got to have your patient pre-check program, and all of those different things. And you've got to vet which one is best for your practice that works with your PM and your EHR, and it's going to support the needs. And all of that can just feel really exhausting. But that is something that feeds me, is a beginning to end process and the success of seeing things through. But I have always been willing to say, if this isn't working for me, I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to go and try something different. We're not in a space in our life that we're consigned to something that's permanent and forever. And so if it's not working, make a change. And there may be temporary discomfort in that. It's hard to learn new things. It's hard to shift. You don't know if the grass is going to be greener or you're going to be happy, but when you have your own business, you can also set your own destiny in place and do what you want to do until you don't want to. I was thrilled to become an employee again after 15 years working full time with my husband in our own business. And I heard people say people who have owned their own businesses aren't good employees, but I'm a rule follower. So I was a good employee when I went back into the workplace. I didn't like not having all the time off that I wanted, but I was happy for someone to pay for my health benefits. So they're always going to be trade-offs.
Yes, for sure. Now that I've been